Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Looney, and big day in the markets. The Fed finally made its rate cut decision, and as expected, they went with a 25 basis point cut. At first, the market was super choppy. We saw some big swings both directions, but by the end of the day, or the end of these after hour sessions right now, things have turned green, and the market is soaring right now. But before we get into this video, quick shout out to the Discord. It is free to join, and I also offer a premium membership for $8 a month that gives you access to one-on-one coaching, trade callouts, my option selling course, giveaways, and more. All the links that are in the description. All right, let's start with the Fed and kind of what they talked about and how it went. As you guys might know, I actually bet on them to cut rates, and I'm not really entirely sure how to check that, at least on Robinhood, but I put money that they would cut rates, and I got my money for that. I believe I got like $200 and something for getting that right. But the conference that he had after they announced it, it came across as very neutral or dovish even, and he basically confirmed that the 25 basis points was needed. But more importantly, he kind of hinted at the possibility of future cuts later this year. And that's the part that the market really latched onto. Remember, recuts make borrowing cheaper, stimulate growth, and usually push investors toward equities. That's why after hours, we're seeing a surge. And my account is up 1%. I do have covered calls, so my hedging is actually going to do probably bad tomorrow, but today they were up $83, so not really much gain with my options. My covered calls are unfortunately in the money, and I'm having to roll and manage those, but that's the reason a lot of these are red is my covered calls. And I do have some debit spreads, but those are really just to protect to the downside. And I might even open up some called debit spreads to catch on to this bull run even more. And at first, this was kind of a sell the news event. We did see that massive dip right around that 215. And of course, the VIX went elevated, and traders weren't really sure if Powell would go hawkish. But once he started shifting his tone and opened the door for more rate cuts down the road, the market liked that, and it began to rip higher. So neutral to dovish, I would say, is exactly what we want. Now, something else I want to talk about is the StubHub IPO. I invested into StubHub, and unfortunately, it did not do so well. And you can see even now it is down. It is down 5% and more 6% now, or somewhere around there. And I requested 100 shares, or I think I requested 333 shares. I was partially filled. Oh no, even more. I requested 425 and I only got one, and I ended up selling it for a profit of $1 for 5% gain. So really not much going on with the StubHub IPO. I do plan to do another IPO. There's one on Pattern, and this should be finalized pretty soon. And hopefully I get my full fill, or at least most of it filled, or honestly anything more than one share I'd be pretty happy with, because getting one share is pretty demoralizing. But on the other hand, my account's doing pretty good. I'm almost at 66,000, and year to date, I'm up 27%, which I think is really good. My portfolio is catching a big boost from this move. And again, I do have these covered calls that I'm having to roll, and those are honestly a grind. But the upside, I am catching some momentum on my plays to the other side. So something I opened recently was Open, and Open is actually up 13% or 14% on the day. Overall, I'm up 13%. And this is a small position, only about 1% on my portfolio. But I thought this would be a nice kind of gamble play. And I've been seeing a lot of hype open up around Open Door. So that's why I've been doing that. And I might even do some more debit spreads to the upside. I have a SoFi called debit spread, and this one is working pretty well. And it kind of seems like the market just keeps going higher. It doesn't really care any bad news or any news at all. It just seems to keep ripping through all-time highs. And I sort of went over it yesterday, where if the Fed cuts rates at all-time highs, the market is higher 1 year later. So a lot of potential there with the market, and I'm overall excited. So Open is one of my plays, and I obviously own crypto. So crypto was up 3% on the day, and a few big gainers. I believe AVAX was up pretty big, up 9% or almost 10%. And that's a smaller position, but I do hold it, and it's only 1%. I might sell this if I do see some more gain. This might be one that's not long term, and shift it more into Bitcoin and make that a bigger position in my portfolio. Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the golden one. So I want to have as much Bitcoin as possible. I know right now is not the best time to start investing into Bitcoin, but that's why I'm doing these small buys, $3 a day, and hopefully build that over a long period of time. But right now, everything is green on my portfolio. So overall, doing pretty good. I have some bigger cap companies and small amounts of those, but these smaller cap or mid cap ones like Riot, Mara, these are the ones that are my main position. Mara was up pretty big as well this past week. Not today, but this past week it was up 10%. So that one takes up 7%. This is my biggest holdings, Riot, and this takes up 30%, and I'm actually up 92% overall. And then SoFi, one of my biggest gainers, percentage-wise, is up 140% or $6,000. And again, I do have those covered calls that I'm going to have to manage and roll and probably pay for, because that's usually what happens when you're deep in the money with covered calls. So again, historically, the Fed rate, when there's a cut, the market has always been higher, but that doesn't mean it's going to be straight up every day. There probably will be some chop in the short term, especially with the triple witching Friday coming up. We might see some sharp pullbacks, but today kind of confirmed the Fed is leaning to more rate cuts and more risk on environment. So if there are kind of any dips, they're very likely to get bought. But just to wrap things up, the Fed cut 25 basis points. Powell did hint at more cuts later this year. The StubHub IPO was definitely a disappointment, but the market shook off the chop and is soaring after hours overall. And I would say this is very bullish, but I'm not going to get complacent. I'm managing risk, hedging, and taking profits along the way. Until next time, peace.